Hi, this is Jeanette Goldstein, sometimes known as Private Vasquez, and or Diamondback from Near Dark, and you are watching Without Your Head.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, and we're live here at the station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neal.
I'm Treacherous Trista.
Yes, and we have the fine people here from Parts Unknown, which we just watched the trailer, possibly twice. We have writer and director Rick Chandler.
What's up? What's going on?
It's good to have you here. And the holiness, Christina Costello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Which, not to spoil the movie, but as we talked about beforehand, she is not a demon.
No, maybe inside, but not outside.
I'm not convinced, but find out here. So, by the way, you guys can see Parts Unknown on Amazon Prime currently. It's very cool. And so, first of all, what's this been like for you, Rick? Because I know that this is something you've been working on for a long time. But then I was at the premiere. It seems like a couple years ago. And then now distribution. So it's been like a long road for it to get out there to a wider audience.
Yeah, it has. I think I probably wrote it in 2016. We shot it in 2017. I think the premiere was. Yeah, probably the following year. So, yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, that's very good. How did you get involved, Christina?
I think, Rick, did you post a casting call? I don't even 100% remember. I just know the holiness description was like petite and thin and creepy moving. And I was like, I'm small. I could be creepy. I'm in. I'm going to try.
I'm glad you added. I can be creepy, and I'm not creepy.
Yeah, not all the time. Just right. Depends on the moment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, here I am now.
Yeah, so it worked out. Yeah, how did you know Rick before that?
Rick, how did I know you? Did I meet you through this? I think
I think you met me through this. Yeah,
through this, right?
Okay.
Honest, yeah. I didn't even realize it's been 3 years since this has started. I think I still feel like it's 2018, so I'm like 2 years behind us right now in my head.
Yeah, it's been a strange last year here for many people.
Yeah, it's like extra long right now.
Yeah, things that happened last year to me seems like it happened like 5 years ago. Usually it's the opposite,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm just go right.
You're going. No, you're going.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I'm stuck in 2018 because this year's been so bizarre. I'm just like ignoring that it's happening. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much.
That's why you have the green screen there. You just plug in your own.
Yeah, and I'm ready. Yeah,
just project 2018 behind you. And
yeah,
that's
I was waiting for something to happen with the green screen, but
I should have done something fun, but I didn't want to be, creepy. So I was trying to maintain.
All right. I think just the green screen works, so I like it.
Yeah.
So, but I guess for people who don't know, what is Parts Unknown about?
Is that a question for me?
Whoever wants to explain. But we'll go with Rick.
That's a you.
Yeah.
That's a me. I was trying to pass it off to you because I don't want to explain it. So yeah, it's a family of wrestlers. They're down in their luck with drugs and getting kicked out of the big federation for doing various things, and now they're fairly psychotic, and they all kind of have their own motivations, but they're looking for this like bloodlust, and kind of the older kind of leader figure of the pack, Herman, finds this demon, and he starts to kind of follow its orders. And I don't think like the rest of the family really thinks it's real or it exists, but it's a really weird movie, very loosely based on professional wrestling, but it just
right.
keeps getting weirder.
Right. I assume this is the hometown of the Ultimate Warrior when I'm watching it.
Yeah, Warrior, he's out there, and when they have the scenes with the swamp and the demon pops up, the ghost of the Ultimate Warrior, he's he's in the background. Maybe the Dungeon of Doom too.
There we go. I'm a big fan of
it's there.
Yeah. Kevin Sullivan could run in Zodiac. all the good people. I've noticed, because I do the horror movie and the wrestling show, that there is a big crossover audience. A lot of horror movie fans like wrestling. A lot of wrestling fans like horror.
It seems that way.
Yeah, which is good for especially for parts unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I know there was no question really. I was just talking, I guess. So.
It's just a commentary.
Yeah, the show doesn't really. We don't ask questions here. We just talk. Christina, are you a wrestling fan?
I loosely know things about wrestling. I'm not gonna lie. I think it looks really cool, and people that wrestle have much more abilities than I have. As I'm on like a princess chair right now, so I'm not entirely a wrestler, but I think it's really neat. And seeing everybody like in the film actually wrestling was pretty wild. I just sat there and I was like, I'm really glad I'm the demon and I don't have to do that.
Uh-huh.
I just have to be scary.
How about filming the wrestling scenes, Rick? What was that experience like? And I assume you have to get people, because I know like Lizzie's had wrestling training, and the star has wrestling training. Did everybody?
The people in the let's see,
Everybody
everybody
in the
ring did. Yeah, everybody you saw in the ring did. Sarah, Lizzie, and Will all did, and then I think anybody else who stepped inside had some kind of it had Brian Zane was in it. He was the jobber in it. He's got a wrestling show, and he wrestled before he did the wrestling YouTube show. So I guess they all did. Most of the other actors did not.
You just said jobber, and I know what that means, but everyone might not know what that means. So, like, when you're writing the script and you want to use like wrestling jargon because it makes it seem real, but then also you might not want to use too much because then some of the people watching might not know, and then you also don't want to just explain what every term means because then it seems very unnatural.
Yeah, I tried to throw in a little bit here, like whenever there was like a locker room scene, there was like a promoter character in it. And, they did throw out a lot of the terms and, as they do, and, they just kind of naturally would. So I tried to make it feel like that locker room,
Yeah. And I like the promoter character. He's very sleazy.
Yeah. Ralph did a good job with that.
Yeah. Which I assume most wrestling promoters are. If any are watching, I'm sure they're upstanding people. But.
They're absolutely upstanding people at all times. They always pay everybody, and not with actual money, not hot dogs. So,
right.
Me and wrestling promoters have a lot in common.
So, Christina, were you paid with a hot dog for the movie?
Well, a fair amount of hot dogs and snacks. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's not shady like a wrestling manager. It was a very professional and fun.
I remember it was gluten-free snacks, though, on a Rick Chandler set.
Yeah, it's a step up. You get gluten-free and vegan options to step up.
Which
it's
is
about
perfect.
all you get, but,
Yeah.
Snacks are great. I would always be paid in food.
That's all I did on set. I had some pizza and brownies, and then I just sat there. It was not helpful in any way. But. Just like I am on the show, I guess. Except for my brownies or pizza. So, I don't know what's going on. So All Beauty Must Die is the shirts. Do you still have those? I was trying to find mine, but mine's much too big for me now.
Yeah, I think all those were like given away, or because we only had a couple of those shirts at that. They were made for the movie.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet though. That was Were you at the premiere, Christina?
I was.
Okay, so I might have met you because
I feel possibly, but again, I didn't look like a demon, so I don't think anyone knew why I was there.
All right.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You must have blended in.
Yeah.
Who designed the demon?
V Height, who was the key makeup or key SFX artist.
Amazing job. I loved working with V. She is attention to detail is fantastic.
It's a very fun costume.
It was an experience being in it. Yeah.
What was the experience like being in the demon costume, in the holiness costume?
So the holiness costume was essentially, my whole face was covered and I had contacts that were pretty cool, but I couldn't really see out of my peripheral vision and I couldn't really hear. So a lot of it was just trying to feel out what I thought was happening.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the movements that I end up making are just kind of like slight twitches from that. It was because the costume was a little bit heavier than I was expecting, but I think that's what made it look so creepy, because the movements ended up being so inhuman because the costume made you feel not like a human.
Yeah. Had you had any previous experience working in a costume?
I've done full body latex costumes before,
really?
actually, and they also, you can't move or breathe or know what's happening. So it's kind of just a feeling of like, you really need to know what's going on and do a little bit of reading beforehand so you can respond based on the cues you hear. But it's fun. It's fun to creep people out and like creep around the set in the costume. I definitely scared some people just by walking by, I think. So
yeah. When you were performing, did you know that Jake the Snake would be your voice?
I think at that point I did, and I wasn't 100% sure what he sounded like at first.
Okay.
So I went and listened to a bunch of clips, and I was like, yeah, that's much better than my voice coming out of this, because I have a very childlike voice, and it would have been like a different way of creepy if you heard me go, "Oh, Beauty must die." Be a little creepier.
That still work. Yeah, it'd be different. Yeah. And Jake the Snake is a very unique promo in wrestling, because unlike other wrestlers who usually are very boisterous and loud, he talks softly.
Yeah.
Which I've had him on the show a bunch of times, and he always said it's because if someone talks slow or low, you have to pay attention, so you have to listen and see what they're saying, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, that is very interesting. Smart though, because you have to pause and put all your focus on the conversation.
Yeah. And it sets him off from everyone else who's yelling and acting. Yeah. How did you get Jake, Rick?
It's pretty simple. I just sent an email out to his manager and just made an offer. I don't think I met him previously. Not an interesting story, sorry.
No, it's
fine.
not so easy. I'm very thrown off. I thought that'd be more complicated.
Right. Yeah, I would just make something up.
Yeah. You had to fight first and see if you were strong enough for him to be on set.
See if you could take the DDT.
Yeah.
He DDT'd me into the pavement and put his snake on me, and then he was like, "Yeah, all right, I'll read the script."
Trista, do you have a question for either of our guests here?
I have a comment. So I'm actually a wrestling fan, so I was very excited to watch the film. And then it opens with a guy wrestling in leather pants, which was blew me away. I was super impressed by the skill involved in wrestling in leather pants. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the film, but that really had an impact on me because I cannot imagine wrestling in leather pants. Anyway, I felt compelled to say that. So you guys shot in Boston, is that correct?
Yeah, in the area.
So I'm wondering, I don't know much about that film community. I know Neal's kind of out there, and I know our mutual friends Michael Epstein and Sophia Cassiola, they're musicians and filmmakers, and they're from that area. Yeah. But I don't know much about the film community. Can you tell me about it? Is there a thriving film community in Boston?
God.
I think that Boston's really unique where everyone's trying to prove themselves, because when you're in a smaller market, I think a lot of people compare themselves to New York or LA. So everyone's trying to kind of figure out how to make your mark and make, it a unique Boston production. And I've noticed a lot of filmmakers, we use, take advantage of the fall, because that's a different season that they don't really have in LA. So a couple of projects
That's
I've been in, we've
interesting.
used the fall as like a setback just because you know it's New England when you see the trees, just to kind of give it that mark. I do mostly voiceover work, actually. So it's a little bit of a different community that I'm involved with. But overall, what I've seen of the Boston film community, I think everyone's just, you know, you got to try to prove yourself in a small market to prove that you can be, you know, anywhere. And it's a cool experience to watch everyone be so passionate.
Oh, cool. So there are a lot of passionate artists. Like before COVID, were there a lot of film festivals there?
I know of a few that were around here, and I think that Boston's constantly, it was pre-COVID, kind of like growing to be a bigger market, because a lot of big movies will come shoot here too now. So I think it's a developing market where it's kind of constantly changing a little bit, but people are very passionate, and you either, you know, leave Boston to try to go to LA to do something, or you try to bring LA to Boston, is the way that I see a lot of people approach it.
Interesting. There's a big comedy scene there, right?
Yes, I have seen some cool comedians, and I think that it feels like it's a good comedy scene and a pretty good music scene in Boston as well. And I think that,
Unfortunately, a lot of the music places, you know, are closing right now.
I know.
For good, a lot of them.
I
A lot
know,
of ones have been around for, you know, decades.
No, this has been so hard, I think, on creative people. I feel lucky that I do voiceover because it's something that you can do remote, on your own, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool to see people be creative and do like Zoom scenes, or, you know, film on their own and then have somebody else film it and like cut them together. I think everyone's finding like workarounds.
Rick, did you have anything to add about the Boston film scene?
It's a lovely place with even better people, my friend.
Because I'm here. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Excellent people. Top, the best, the biggest. Neal, the biggest, the best.
Biggest. All right, the biggest. And the
I heard that. That's what I was told to say before I came on here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just making sure I get that point across.
All right. Well, what is the name of your company, Rick? I know it used to be Boston Film Family.
Well, it's still technically Boston Film Family, but we rebranded a little bit as Boston Undead. For, you know, just moving in the direction of kind of a little bit more exclusively dark content and horror. So just kind of going in that direction, just a little bit of a rebranding of sorts.
We mentioned Paul Mclaren, who has a small part in the movie, but you did a lot together. Like, didn't you? Like, you'd work on his stuff and he'd work on your stuff. Yeah,
I played Satan in Gay Jesus, which was one of his movies.
I'm a big fan of Gay Jesus. I'm a big fan of Paul Mclaren movies. It's too bad he quit making movies.
I'm a fan of Paul's stuff. I think Paul, even though like they probably wouldn't look at it this way, but I feel like they were one of the groups that like I wanted to actually work with. I thought that like the stuff they were doing was cool because it was artistic, but it was also exploitation, which is what I try to do too. You know, I think that there's not a lot of people that like do both. I think a lot of times it's just super artsy or it's like almost schlock. You know,
yeah, that's what drew me to his stuff. Is like it's definitely exploitation film, but it always had some type of social commentary in it, which that appeals to me.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like even Gay Jesus, like just the idea, obviously it's trying to push buttons on some people, but if you watch a movie, it really actually follows the Bible pretty closely, except for Jesus happens to be gay in it, but.
It's a controversial movie, but it was fun. I think they pushed the envelope. But let's see, when was that? Like 2016, 17. People were still kind of pushing the envelope. Especially with Parts Unknown, that was like our goal. Mm-hmm. And now it's like things have changed slightly. But
interesting. Has that affected what people think of them? Since it came out.
I think it's been a little bit harder to promote things, yeah, because we're in kind of like a weird market now where like somebody can take a sentence or they can take a character or like one frame and they could say that it means something and just post just that. You know, and people don't have to really, like, for instance, if somebody did that, like,
literally taking something out of context.
Yeah, I feel like if somebody did that 4 years ago, it would have been like controversial, but it would have got eyes on the product. And now people are like almost kind of scared to do something, you know, like they almost don't want to get in the middle of like something that could be too controversial. Like even if the social message is fine, or, you know, it doesn't really matter what side of the political spectrum it's on, if it even is on a spectrum. It's more just like people just don't want to touch anything hairy now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've not lately, but I used to get banned from Facebook a lot. That's why I had the backup account for similar things. But yeah, I understand. It's a weird world.
Mm.
So what's Wild Eye Releasing like to work with?
I thought they were decent. I mean, they did a good job with PR and getting the movie out there to critics and stuff like that. You know, some distributors just don't. They just throw it in the wind and they're like, hey, hope someone watches it.
Right. Now, Christina, when you said you started watching Jake's promos, did that affect how you moved or, you know, how you played the character?
It gave me a key on the note you made about his voice, that it's kind of softer. So it kind of, my initial idea was to be a little bit quicker with my movements, but hearing how slow he spoke and soft made me realize that moving slower would probably add to his voice tone and make it a little bit more like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to be around this thing longer than I have to.
Right.
So it definitely just made me realize the way my movement should have been, because I definitely initially thought like quick and creepy, and it made me realize that slow would probably match it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't think you were going to move too fast and all that.
No, I didn't really realize how heavy it was going to be initially.
Yeah, me neither. I wasn't sure.
So yeah, it slowed me down a little bit anyway, but I tried to be conscious a little bit about like little things more than I would have been, I think.
Rick was talking about, you know, the movie being controversial or pushing buttons and stuff. How about, because this is something I don't always think about, because like my family have always watched like really strange movies. That's actually how I like watch movies. But how about yourself? Like your family and friends, have they seen the movie? And, you know, what do they think of you being involved in parts of it?
My friends have seen it, some of my friends, and they all like horror. So it was kind of like a good crowd of friends to show. My parents are a little bit, actually, they'd probably think it was cool too. I think they just haven't watched it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
But my sister really likes horror. So ironically, good. I like horror the least out of my family because I'm really jumpy.
You're off the show now. No.
Yeah, I know. I like the concept of horror. I like watching horror, but I'm like, all the lights are on and I might not sleep after, even though I've been in horror films and I know how that person did it. I'm still like, no, that one demon though, that one's real.
Right.
Now I'm nervous.
I sometimes wonder if that's a better way, if you would enjoy, because I mean, I still like horror movies. I don't really get scared of them. That's not trying to be a tough guy or something. It's just I wonder if like, you know, just if it would be more enjoyable if like I did still get scared of movies. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know the answer because I can't.
Yeah, you know. I think about them more, and I think there's a few that I really like, but I definitely I watch horror movies with the lights on, even though that's illogical. I know it's not. Nothing's going to happen. But, yeah, I'm still terrified.
No, I mean, I think that's part of why a lot of people like wrestling, too, is I always think people assume, like, people watch wrestling, they think it's real, and they're kind of like dummies or something. But my experience is the vast majority of people watch it because they're entertained. And,
yeah.
And just like there's people who get really upset, like when characters died in The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. They didn't really think, you know, that, you know, Rick was eaten by zombies, but they, you know, they got into the character, and just like if you watch wrestling, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the athletics are really incredible.
Oh yeah, definitely. you know, there's a lot of things about wrestling that's appealing to me, and it's kind of it is very impressive what they're doing. I like the theatrics of it. Sometimes I like even the over the topness, like silliness of it. And then there's also some serious stuff there. I mean, I kind of like if you've ever seen Beyond the Mat when he tries to explain why he likes wrestling at the beginning. I always think that's like a spot on thing because it kind of just runs all the. There's nothing else quite like pro wrestling. It's really its own thing. And I like kind of all aspects of it.
I think it's like one of those things you either kind of get it or you don't, because like you said, a lot of like my friends will be like, I don't understand, you know, what's so, it's like, this match is like 40 minutes of guys just, you know, they're stuntmen. And I'm like, no, it's, there's such like a if it's done well, there's like a psychology behind it. And then there's like this backstage, you know, all the dirt sheet stuff that's going on that like no one, you know, I find that very interesting, you know, how it's run and how it's promoted. It's a lot like indie film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mentioned like the words you used, you know, jobber and juice use it and stuff. And just that whole aspect of it, it's like it's got its own language that goes back to the Carney days, which all of that I find really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
You know, and I'm sure that, you know, not everyone's into that, but so how long have you been a wrestling fan, Rick?
Oh, forever. Like since I was like 6.
You remember like who were the first people that really you got attached to?
Well, Jake the Snake for one. He was one of my favorites when I was growing up. Being a kid, I obviously liked Hulk Hogan. You know, and I always I think as a kid, I always liked the big baby faces, you know, until I was like a little bit older, you know, and then got into, you know, everybody was like super into like, you know, Stone Cold and Vince McMahon and that whole conflict. I think like people obsessed with that in high school. It was like, what's Vince going to do? Like, you know, it's like, and people wanted to see that over the top stuff.
The Attitude Era.
Yeah.
People were obsessed.
I graduated in '94, right before the boom period. So like, there was only like one other person who liked wrestling, and because it was like Doink the Clown era. So
yeah.
But I like that too. So, but Trista, I don't know if I've ever asked you who your favorite wrestler was.
Well, I too was a Hulkamaniac. But I really liked Rowdy Piper as well.
That's my personal favorite, actually. Yeah.
And I love They Live, as you know.
Yes.
How is Jake doing?
What's up?
You know how Jake the Snake's doing?
Last I heard, he was doing okay. I have no idea how people are doing during this, you know, global crisis, but prior to that, he was doing pretty good.
He tweeted something I thought was really it was poignant, and some wrestling fans made fun of it, but he was talking about being so lonely during the.
Saw that, yeah.
God, people make fun of that?
Some wrestling fans are jerks. I mean,
some wrestling fans are very kind of trolls, shall we say? Yeah.
Not everyone.
It's a heartless thing to do.
I'm 100% with you. And it was. I mean, he's talking about, you know, because he was clean. He's been clean now, but he had to, you know, during quarantine, especially when it first started, like, you know, he couldn't do anything, and he was in a hotel room and no one to talk to, and he's like, you know, he had urges to, you know, to do things, and I thought, you know, I can, you know, I totally understand that. And it was really sad, and you know, I guess he did what he could to stay clean. But if people don't know, he's currently part of AEW wrestling on Wednesday nights.
Oh wow, that's really great, actually.
Yeah, he's.
I hope those people feel really good about like making fun of someone for struggling.
Yeah, it's. I agree with you. Very. It's a weird world out there. There's many times I think about quitting the wrestling show because of people like that, but there are a lot of actually nice wrestling fans. So it's not.
I feel so defensive of Jake the Snake right now.
I know, I'm with you. Mariella here says she was a big Captain Lou Albano fan.
Oh, wow.
Before I lost a lot of weight, people always said I looked like a lot like Captain Lou Albano.
I can see that. I can see that at one point.
It is a huge compliment. But I like Lou Albano. I gotta get some rubber bands in my cheeks.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, he used to pierce his face with rubber bands. So it's a look someone needs to bring back. Maybe I gotta do that.
Yeah.
So, what made you decide to you love wrestling, you want to do a wrestling, themed horror movie? Like you said, it's not like you don't have to be a big wrestling fan to watch the movie.
True. Yeah, I always wanted to do like a wrestling horror movie because I thought like the world of wrestling. Maybe it's a little less dark in this past, 6 years, but it was super dark at one point, and for a long time. What business besides maybe the film industry has such drug use, like actual murders, actual deaths, and it's like they're just covered up, they're covered up for business, and I'm like, if I could take that darkness and put it into a horror movie, which is supposed to be dark, I'm like, the two things kind of went together, and then, because it's a Rick Chandler movie, it had demons in it, it made no sense, but, that was the idea.
Well, if it didn't have demons, Christina might not have been involved.
Yeah.
That's true.
So sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So you need to do. By the way, you said it's a Rick Chandler movie, and I know, even I know spoilers, but stay after the credits if you watch other Rick Chandler movies. There is characters that are throughout the Chandler universe, I guess we'll say. Will we see any of the characters from this and anything else?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. One reviewer picked up on it, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I wanted to send that guy like a bouquet of fucking flowers. I'm like, somebody actually pieced it together. But yeah, it's connected to Witch Hunt, or Witch Hunters as they renamed it. You do see my character if you stay for the credits, you see my character from Witch Hunters. You see the general from Gilgamesh, and which I don't believe is streaming right now anywhere that I know. And it kind of connects the movies together loosely. Parts Unknown does follow the events of Witch Hunt, I think like 12, 14 years later, like pretty closely, even though I think most people probably won't realize that. The Mother of Mercy character is in both movies as well.
Mm-hmm. So will there be another in the future? Anything you're working on that we'll see? Anyone from Parts Unknown?
One just about the holiness, I think, would be a great idea. The whole backstory, I'm sorry.
The series or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because we did have serious discussions about this, mainly in the 2018, but beginning of 2019, and I think things just got kind of hard to shoot, and now obviously with the pandemic, it's gotten even harder. Like locations became really tough. Now they're like impossible. So I think it would be really hard, I think, to do a movie that might be on that grand scale of things. But it would be really cool to pick up the story. I might even be a little bit too close to real life now, but pick up the story where everybody's like these zombies influenced by the holiness, and they kind of look at the holiness as kind of like a god now, and they're just...
Christina's loving this idea.
Yeah. And they're, kind of going around as just causing all this chaos. And then from that chaos, I was going to have like the government come in and step in. So you see these kind of like factions. And then you see some villains from the past kind of pop up to take advantage from this. It was something I really wanted to do. I think it's kind of eerie now because like I feel like real life is we're kind of almost there, but I don't know, it requires maybe a little bit more budget than I'd be able to pull off, especially with the locations that I don't know how I'd get them in this like post-COVID world. You know, we had a whole movie where we were going to shoot, you know, and it was the first movie I couldn't shoot in like 15 years because locations just kept falling through.
Yeah.
And that was before the pandemic, you know, so now I'm just like, it'd be tough to do a movie of that caliber, but I would love to answer the question, in short.
Mm-hmm. Christina, what did you think when you saw the finished movie for the first time?
It was cool to see everything put together. I feel like I fixated so much on the stuff that I did, and that's like what I knew really well.
Right.
So I was surprised by things that happened because I had been so intense on like, what's the holiness doing when this is happening? So it was neat to just see everything come together. And I didn't see, I wasn't there for any of the wrestling stuff. So to see like that on stage was really cool to see how professional and badass everybody looked wrestling. It was neat.
Yeah, and then you get to see someone wrestle in leather pants.
Yep, exactly.
Leather pants, baby. I think they were pleather, just for the record. But
Okay.
Oh, you had a very puzzled look as I was describing it, and I guess that was why.
Oh, me? My face is
Very
always puzzled. That's just my natural look, but I think they were pleather, so maybe he was able to move a little bit more in them for that reason.
I stand corrected.
Right. Plus, it's nicer for, you know, there was no animals harmed.
Animals in the world.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. At least we cared about one cause when we made this movie.
Yeah. When I mentioned family earlier, you know, I know Rick's dad, you know, works on a lot of people might know this, that Rick's dad works on a lot of movies. So how influential was your dad, you know, as far as you getting into making films?
I mean, he's done audio for a long time. He's made a lot of the props. He's done some of the practical effects, like the blood explosion type effects. So like, yeah, he's been a big part of things, consistently, whether he regrets it or not, I don't know, but, he definitely, you know, has been there and has, put in a tremendous amount of hours, on set and off set.
Mm-hmm. What's that like to work with your dad?
He's the real boss, because I can get mad at him, but he'll kick my ass later, you know.
Right.
So, that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, is he a movie buff himself?
Not particularly. Like, you know, I think he's like an action movie buff. So like he doesn't even get into horror. And he watched wrestling like he watched it when I lived there, like when I was in high school. So he was exposed to like the Steve Austin era, and then he, you know, so it's probably like more familiar with that type of stuff.
Right. You know, Trista had asked about the Boston film community, and I noticed that James Balsamo pops up in so many Boston-based like films, and I wonder why, because he's in LA. Well, why is James popping up and everything?
Well, because he makes it a point to. No, I like James. He's a good guy.
No, I like James too. I've known him for a long time.
Yeah, I think when conventions existed, he was often there, and he would like. He's a friendly guy, so he would approach and he'd be like, "Hey, here's a shirt. Here's one of my movies. Check it out." So then it would be like, "Oh, hey, you know, why don't we find a way to like give each other cameos?" So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, I like it. And he has a very distinct voice, so it's always fun when I hear James pop up in something. Yeah,
he was the DJ. He did like a voiceover DJ thing in Parts Unknown.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He even has a small part in the movie that I was part of in February. So he just pops up in everyone's stuff.
Yeah, he kind of does. He's like the Lloyd Kaufman of our time almost. He just pops up in like every like B movie, every like all that stuff.
Exactly. I don't blame him. So, how about Lloyd? Have you ever done anything with Trauma?
A short that I produced and acted in was on Trauma TV, but I did not work for them directly.
Yeah. seem like you could be a good fit.
I'm surprised I've never worked with them directly. It just I don't know, just like it just hasn't happened.
Yeah. That's how I met Paul, who I met you through, and Michael through, and lots of people through. But when I met Paul through Troma and Lloyd.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, I think Troma put out Honky Holocaust. I think.
Yeah, that's how I met.
One of their movies. Yeah.
Which, like you're saying, that I thought Honky Holocaust a very funny movie, and also has a lot of social commentary. But I think today it's, even though it's not racist at all, I think people would see it that way because of the use of the language in the movie.
It's the association and the stigma that it's because I feel like I understand that. I feel like a lot of my movies from that era too, like somebody would take lines out of it. Even if a villain said certain stuff, people would be like, why was that there? You know, and it's like, well, it's not like promoting that language. It's not promoting the negativity. It's just part of the plot. But I think that like Honky Holocaust, like, did it like bash KKK?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's an anti-racist movie. That's the whole message
absolutely,
of it.
Yeah, but you're right. Like people would take like that one line out of it and try to create like a black cloud. You know, so I understand, or like, you know, a stigma. And I think because of that, and that's what I was saying before, it's getting so hard to make these like B movies that stand out, because you can't compete with Netflix and their like constant stream of like boring ass $250,000 slasher movies that are just like, all right, we've already seen that. They're cookie cutter.
Mm-hmm. When I first got Netflix, they had a lot of independent horror films, but it seems like there's nothing there for, like, as far as like indie horror. Not really much horror at all, but
yeah.
Tubi's really great.
Yeah, I agree. Tubi's, yeah, tons of stuff, and I know a lot of my and probably mutual friends with you that are upset, that Tubi was bought, but up until this point, I know a lot of the independent filmmakers said it was one of the better places, just as far as treating you well and paying you decently for your stuff. So
I don't think I've had anything on there, but I did hear good things about it. That's unfortunate to hear it was bought, though.
Yeah, hopefully they say they won't change anything, but who knows?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, so far they still do have all kinds of really bizarre stuff out there that you can't find anywhere else, and it's and it's free for to view. You get a little ads, but who cares about a couple ads? I don't know.
No, I don't care at all about ads. I feel like when you watch TV, there's ads anyway. So
yeah, a lot more ads on regular television than 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So you said you do a lot of voice acting.
I do.
What kind of stuff?
I actually primarily focus on like children's voice acting.
Okay.
I do a lot of little kid voices. Most of the stuff I audition for are either like really small female voices that are like, "Hi guys, brush your teeth," or it's like that generic anime boy voice where it's like, "Hey guys, I'm a boy." It's like that raspy kind of voice. But I mostly do stuff geared for children. Right now I do a lot of educational videos for little kids about brushing your teeth or being nice to each other. I've had some cool opportunities. I've done some horror video games, actually.
Oh, really?
Where I get to play a creepy kid. Is the character's name is just creepy kid. So I have a type, I guess.
No, I think that's cool. And I always wonder, like, it seems like a hard world to get into. Like,
oh, definitely.
I don't know if you want to talk about that, like how you get into that.
So a lot of stuff for voice acting kind of comes down to, it pays off to have like traditional acting experience because people see it as you've already been exposed to that kind of world. I built a home studio. My boyfriend built most of it. I'm not going to take credit. I bought a microphone. But we have a home studio. You have to be able to connect with your clients so they can like live direct you. A lot of people, if you don't have an agent, I'm fortunate enough to have someone like vouching for me, but Twitter is a really good way to get into voice acting. There's a ton of indie calls for video games, for indie cartoons, for YouTube. there's kind of like a little like underground Twitter community for like giving people chances to get in.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
how I found my way, was just searching on Twitter one day, and I found a pretty good job, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah. When you do voice acting, do you always see the character that you're doing the voice of beforehand?
No, it depends on the company, and I actually have heard from friends that do bigger voice acting jobs for, like, for example, I know someone that voiced in Final Fantasy. They voiced random characters, no idea what they looked like, no context, just like a lot of times you see what you're gonna do when you first get in there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to ask the animators or whatever then if they base the looks off it at all.
Yeah.
The voice.
I've always wondered that. There's one character I voice in a children's thing, and she started off as a blonde, but now she has 2 red pigtails. I'm like, is that because of my hair, or is that just, am I overthinking it?
Right. Well, if I start wearing a demon mask.
Yeah. I try.
There's also the MAGA hat, which, if I remember correctly, like, it wasn't like that huge of a thing when you had the MAGA hat in yet. Like, it was kind of before they really became like a big talking point.
I can't believe more people aren't talking about that. I can't believe that has not come. You're the first person that's actually brought that
Really?
up. Yeah, and I'm very surprised. Because, one of the members of the von Strasser family in the movie wears a MAGA hat, which kind of implies that even though this movie takes place in the future, it's possible Trump was still president. And I don't know, just am I psychic? Are we heading towards that now, Neal? Because that's obviously,
hopefully not.
When we did it, obviously it was supposed to be funny. It was like the von Strassers were crazy. The guys, he's like a hardcore Trumper, and now it's kind of like,
It's funny you say that, because recently I was like cleaning out and I found this pin that I got at a Mad Monster, and it's Trump as Superman, and it was like this, and I found it at a convention because I thought, and I just kept it because I thought it was so stupid, because at the time I thought like, who's ever going to vote for this idiot? And then I look at it now, I was like, oh God, the people did vote for him. I laugh, but it's So what was the decision to put him in the MAGA hat?
Why did I put him in it? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So, that character, it's funny because of the way things have gone in this past 6 months. The character he would be one of those people that would be protesting masks and not wearing one. And he would be in the front line of like saying explicit things and believing all the weird conspiracies, and that character would be doing that. And it's funny because it's like, again, those are the people that you see often wearing the red caps and the red shirts and the, like, kind of culty.
People I block on Facebook. Yeah.
People you got to block on Facebook because they get very weird and talk about demon sex and the New World Order and not Scott Hall.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get surprised every time I go on Facebook, because I used to think like, all this stuff was just jokes, and then I was like, these people actually really believe this?
Yeah, that's the messed up part about the von Strassers, is they were supposed to be kind of like tongue-in-cheek psychotic, and now they're kind of becoming people you almost see on the internet, and it's scary a little bit. It's a little wild.
It is, yes. It's very weird times. I have some notes here. Nipple severing. So what was it like to sever a nipple on screen?
I like the nipple story because it was so hard. No joke. The nipple was very hard. It was actually Lizzie's a mold of her nipple.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, you didn't really cut her nipple off, though.
No, she did not actually die.
All right.
Or get her nipples severed. That'd be pretty hardcore. But the the actress who was cutting it, Sarah, couldn't cut it. It just didn't cut. It was so hard. So she just started stabbing it. And then we had to do like an insert shot of it getting like cut later, and it was kind of peeling off. So there was like a lot of stuff going on with that nipple. That was a big thing.
Yeah. Do you still have the nipple?
I think it is floating around in a prop box somewhere. I do have one somewhere, so yeah, kind of creepy, but I do.
Yeah.
Is Neal trying to get the nipple?
People don't know this. I have a huge collection of nipples. It's the largest on the cave. Right, yeah. I tried to keep when I had surgery last year, and I lost my belly button. I asked my surgeon if I could keep the belly button. I asked him because I said I want to make a wallet out of it, and he just looked at me.
That's very Ed Gein of you.
We have to send that off to a lab, and I was like, oh, just kidding, dude. But anyway. But yeah, that's cool. Who does the gore effects?
Well, that was done by V2, V as well, I should say, and I think Sam Ragu also worked on the nipple. They did the silicone hand that blew up, like all the silicone stuff.
Yeah. Where did you film the wrestling scenes? You brought them up a few times.
Wrestling scenes were filmed in a place like some kind of mill building in Lawrence that we rented, and we had Bell Time Wrestling came in. We rented their ring. They set up, and it was a very expensive day. Probably the budget of that one day was the entire budget of Witch Hunt, which is like totally messed up. So glad it happened. So I don't even know what the question was, but yeah.
No, filming the wrestling scenes, where they were filmed.
Yeah, it was filmed. It was like a warehouse somewhere. Dude showed up, let us in. Very shady. Like cars kept coming in the parking lot and just like observing us. I think they thought it was a drug deal or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I always see, on your Facebook, you're going around like cool locations, and you're doing photography and stuff. When you do that, do you ever keep places in mind, like, hey, this would be a cool location to film, a scene in the movie?
Yeah, I think it's tough to. Some of the places I've been in recently, I've either been there illegally or it'd be tough to get a crew of like 30 people in there. There's no bathrooms and stuff. But yeah, shorter content, which may be the direction that I'm forced to go in anyway, because of COVID and just the insanity of the world and people. So I feel like, yeah, it's been pretty good. I've been kind of like going with, mental asylums and stuff, but I was recently kicked out by the police.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Was there a story there? Like, how did they find out you were there?
Go on.
Yeah.
How did they find out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We walked in, and I've been there like 3 or 4 times, and then but some idiots were setting off fireworks, I guess, for the 4th, and then I think they were like burning things, just being dumb. And I went in just to do photography and film stuff, just being an art nerd and whatever. And I wasn't there to destroy things, but the cops were already there, and they were there when I got there, and the guy came out, and it could have gone a lot worse than it did. I kind of distracted the guy. I had like a little cell phone gimbal, and I'm like, yo, look how cool this thing is. And he just couldn't stay mad because he liked it. But he was pretty pissed. He said the place was radioactive and we needed to get the fuck
Oh.
out.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he's trying to be nice then.
Yeah.
Have you run into that before? I don't keep bringing up Paul, but I know Paul's, had some run-ins when he's filming things.
Yeah, there was a couple times. Once in Brockton, We were down a dead-end street in front of somebody's house, and the cops came. We had a prop gun, and that could have gone a lot worse. I think the worst time, I was in South Boston breaking into a building on a roof for a movie as an actor. I will say as an actor. And, like, the police showed up and, you know, I did not know they were showing up. I didn't know they weren't actors. So I was breaking into a building, you know, and I had a prop gun, and I just turned around, the cop was there, you know, and he didn't have a gun pointed at me. He was just down at his side, and he was like, I assume this is for a movie. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to get shot. I'm just like, yeah, I'm an actor. But luckily he already saw like people downstairs, you know, otherwise I feel like it may have gone a lot worse.
Well, I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah. It would have been kind of cool to get shot and not die. Because then I could be like, you know, I took one for the team, but.
Right.
Only if they filmed it, right? It'd be great production.
I agree with Trista, yeah.
Wow. That would have been something.
Yeah. When we used to do, you know, weird thing, I always said, try to, if anything happens, make sure it's on camera. You make sure you film it, at least then, you know, you get some hits off YouTube.
Yeah, you can always put it on YouTube. But, yeah, luckily we never got into serious trouble that I can recall.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. That's good. So, A Parts Unknown, it's on Amazon Prime. The physical copy as well?
Yeah, on Amazon.com, I think you can buy a DVD as well.
Is there any specials on that, do you know of?
Yeah, actually, there is. There is a scene that is removed from the streaming because it was the worst scene in any movie of all time, including my own movies. And yeah,
did it involve a barbed wire bat?
It involved a razor blade dildo.
Oh, that all right. Yes, I thought that wasn't in the, because I saw that in the premiere in the theater, but I didn't think it was in the version I saw again recently.
No, it's luckily I had the foresight to cut some of it out, and I am very glad that I did, because I just feel like it may be excessive violence. Again, there's people that love excessive violence, but there are also people that maybe that was pushing some buttons. You know, I mean, it was pretty bad. So it is on the DVD, though. I think
so. You know, I do think some people walked out of the theater during that scene.
They did. I think that was the only time in my life where I said, oh shit, maybe I went a little too far with something. So, yeah.
So what was the decision then? Like how early on was the decision to cut that scene?
I had a couple people tell me I really liked the movie, but that scene, come on, you know, and they kind of said that, and I was like, all right. I was like, maybe society, and maybe rightfully so, this was pretty bad. I'm like, you know, maybe we're moving away from depictions of extreme violence. You know, maybe we're getting away from the Japanese horror, Ichi the Killer type stuff at this point. I mean, maybe in other countries they're still into it, but, you know, I mean, maybe America's getting away from it. And then, you know, I was like, kind of like, you know, maybe I should cut this down. Because people were like, why is it so long? You know, why is it friggin' 3 minutes? And I said, well, that's the realistic time it would take for someone to die from that stab wound. And they were like, oh, dude, we didn't want to see it for 3 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I've heard this enough. I'm like, I'm going to cut it down. And I'm like, I'm not going to take it's still in the movie. It's just like quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I thought maybe I just remember it wrong, but I remember it being a much more graphic scene when I saw it at the premiere.
It is bad at the premiere, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Very good. Christina, where can people follow you to see what you're up to?
That's a good question.
If you want people to know, I don't know, maybe you don't want them
I'll
to
go
know.
for it. Yeah, no, they can know. I use Twitter for voiceover, so it's Tina Time VO for voiceover. Very creative. Or Instagram is Christina the Actress. So creative.
I think it works. I'll remember.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And where can people follow you, Rick?
I think I am Boston Undead everywhere on Twitter, although Twitter's kind of dead. But yeah, definitely Instagram. Well, it's dead for me. I think I have like most of my following seems to be on Instagram, and for some lame reason on my personal Facebook. Because
you're undead everywhere, but you're just dead on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a weird combination. But yeah, I'm not really adding people on Facebook right now, but we do have a fan page. So at Boston Undead everywhere, you can find the meat and potatoes there.
All right. Someday I'm gonna do an interview with Rick and get all the dirt on all these things that are hinted at. But.
Oh man, I know you wore your Moxley shirt because I was like, does he want me to be controversial and talk about shit I shouldn't hear or
unscripted violence?
Yeah, I'm like, you can have a show just called Rick Chandler Unscripted Violence, where like I blade halfway through and just go on a rant. We'll save that one for you, the exclusive.
All right, it's a deal. Trista, did you have anything before we go? I'm sorry.
I also quickly wanted to mention that I really enjoyed the synth music in the film.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Talk about that for a second, if we have a second. It was really great.
Thank you. That actually was a very heavy influence on the film itself. Was just like the dark wave type of music, and the composer did a really, really good job, I think, creating that.
And who's the composer?
Andre Fernandez, I think I'm saying his name correctly. He's
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
I know, just in case I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize, but I don't know what his website is, but he does really good stuff, and if anyone is interested about hiring him, I do have his email, so I can point you in that direction.
I agree with Trista. That was a good point because it is that's a great part of the movie. It really adds a lot to the score.
Indeed.
I dig it. All right. Well, this has been fun. It's good to talk to everybody.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great meeting you. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Meeting you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody. And thanks for watching.
Thank you.